Hi, welcome back to the channel. It's your favourite aspiring model. I know it's been a bit of a while, it's been about nearly 2 weeks, but I've had a few other things to deal with, hence why I haven't done a video in nearly 2 weeks. And a lot of the time it's thinking of things to talk about that are relevant or valid and things that, people might find interesting. Each to their own, many might not, but some might. If you're new to the channel, after this video I'll go and check out the previous videos. And what I wanted to talk about today was something that we all kind of worry about at some time. Maybe some more than others. Some might take it to extremes. I did a video not so long ago on looks maxing. There's a couple. I did want to do a follow-up video about that, but ended up not doing it. But I might do in the future. But what I wanted to talk about today was how do you go about it? How do you whoever may be watching this, how do you go about? What's your routine? Do you have? Do you look after your appearance? Because predominantly this channel is about fashion. It's about trying to look your best, not, as with the looks maxing community, chasing a look that doesn't really exist, but they have this ideology, this kind of ideology that chasing a certain look is going to just fix everything for you and it's going to make everything perfect, when that really isn't the case. And there are much simpler things you can do to actually look your best, and they're very simple things, but they can make a massive change. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video today. I touched on this briefly in the looks maxing video about how there are simple routines which you can do to bring out your best look. And I feel that in of itself, wanting to look after yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very good thing. But the reason I did a video on looks maxing was to kind of point out how dangerous it actually was, and how it's kind of getting out of hand, particularly young men. How many of them are, like I said, they're chasing an unattainable look that doesn't really exist. And there are much simpler things you can do that are much more beneficial, much cheaper, and much safer. So there are things you can do. And like I said, I just want you to think to yourself, what do you do on a daily basis? What's your routine, if you have one? What is it? Do you shave every day? Do you groom? If you do have facial hair, do you groom it? Do you have any skincare routines? Anything like that? And just have a quick think to yourself. What do you do to make yourself look the best you can? Because mine is very simple. It's literally a wash and a shave, and that's pretty much it. And face wash, as opposed to when I don't wash or have a shave, you look much more unkempt. It isn't a drastic change, but it's still very noticeable. In that if you aren't clean shaven and you aren't washed, it is very noticeable. But many people assume that I have these mad skincare routines and mad facial routines or whatever. But that really isn't the case. It's the bare basic, just a wash, a shave, and make sure I maintain it and keep it up. And the difference it makes just having a wash and a shave as opposed to when I don't. It's completely, it is a big difference. And I assume that many men's routine is very similar. I'd assume. There's nothing wrong with going a bit further with it, but I'd assume that most men, that's pretty much it. I literally just wash and shave, but I make sure I do it every day. And it does have a benefit. You don't need ridiculously expensive face creams or anything like that. That's not what you need, really. You can use that stuff if you like. I personally don't. You may think differently. I don't. I literally just wash with water and have a shave, and that's literally it. But it works for me. It works anyway. Again, some people might take it a bit further, and they might, use expensive creams, deodorants, all the rest of it, all these products. That again, you can use them, but they're not imperative. They're not essential. But I've spoken to a few people of late. A few people I know, young men, people my age, who have no routine at all. They don't wash or clean or anything like that. They don't have a routine. And it's sometimes considered a bit out of the ordinary, where I'm from anyway, where when you do wash and you do take care of yourself to an extent, people kind of look at you like it's a bit odd. Because, most people, they literally get out of bed, they look how they are. So, for example, having long hair. I can't point out how important it is. If you do have long hair and you are growing your hair, you have to maintain it. You have to keep an eye on it. You have to keep washing it. Every other day I wash my hair. Do I enjoy doing it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are many times, I'd say over the last 2 to 3 months, there are many times I've missed having short hair. And if I didn't like how it looked as much, it would have been cut off by now. But I stick with it. But it has to be maintained. You have to be washing it. Again, you don't need any conditioners. You can use them if you want. But again, I don't. It's just shampoo, water, that is it. Don't use any other leave-in conditioners or anything like that. But at the same time, I still have to wash it every other day. And again, as you've noticed, if you watch these videos regularly, I'm often combing my hair because I have to maintain it. I have to keep it looking decent. Otherwise, it'll just end up going like rat's tails and ends up becoming quite straggly and quite greasy. So it has to be kept, for want of a better word. It has to be maintained to a certain degree. Because I have seen many guys, and I've noticed with quite a few guys, when they grow their hair, they just let it grow and they don't really do anything with it. They're kind of like, well, I've got long hair and I'm just going to let it grow, but I'm not really going to do anything with it. And you can tell pretty quickly when it isn't maintained or isn't looked after. So if you are growing your hair, or you're thinking about, or you might have long hair, as I said before in a previous video, you have to be careful about it when it mats or clumps together, which is a problem. It can really, really become very irritating when that happens. So the best thing to do when you have washed your hair and you're drying it, instead of getting the towel and just going mad with it, you just get it and you're very slow with it. Just literally like rub it over your head instead of just going mad with the towel in like a frenzy. Just be very slow with it. And this presents less matting, which, when it comes to it, untangling it with a hairbrush can be very painful and quite tedious. So the best thing to do with the towel is just be very slow with it. And as I say, wash it up to every other day. Don't wash it every day, just every other day. That's the best Best way to do it. If you wash it every day, it can become more fragile, and it can start to break off, and it can start to become quite brittle if you're washing it every day. You have to give it chance almost to breathe. So you have to let it kind of, not let it become greasy, because when it becomes greasy, if you leave it long enough, say if you leave it 4 days, and you haven't, depending on how greasy your hair is, mine is, I'd say about average, not really greasy hair, but it's not, some people are a bit luckier and it takes more of a while for it to become greasy. Mine's, I'd say, pretty average. But if you leave it up to like 3 to 4 days, you're kind of pushing it. I think most people's hair by then could become greasy. I don't know. You might be different. It might take a lot longer. I don't know. But we made it about 3 to 4 days, and then that itself, when it comes to washing it, can be quite, it can be hard. It doesn't fit. Your hair can start to feel like straw, if you know what I mean. When you're washing it. I don't know if you've ever bleached your hair. Completely, but not just had streaks, but completely bleached it and washed it. It's not a very nice feeling. It's like straw. So, and it can feel like that sometimes if your hair is greasy and you've left it for a while. So, every other day, it's a bit vague for most people, but that I'd say to anyone, every other day, because it gives it a chance to breathe, but then you wash it the next day, and it's easier than if you leave it, say, 3 or 4 days. So I'd wash it every other day. The washing it's the easy part, the drying it is something else. That's where, as I say, it comes into practice where you use the towel quite slow instead of just going mad with it, because you prevents matting. And again, consistently comb it. You should be combing it quite regularly. Again, to prevent matting, to prevent it clumping together. So the more you comb it, the more it pulls through and it separates, and it just keeps it looking healthier and more fresh. But that's just one. Again, that's only relevant to people with long hair. But regardless of what your hair is like, your hygiene or face wash routine or shaving routine or whatever that is, whatever yours might be, is something else that is quite important. And as I pointed out in the looks maxing video, wanting to look after your appearance is a very good thing and something I'm fully supportive of. So in the essence of the looks maxing message, if you like, wanting to look your best is a good thing, but as I said, it's kind of been a bit hijacked and become something much more radical than just wanting you to look your authentic best and chasing some look that again doesn't really exist. But wanting to look your best and wanting to look the best you can is something that's, I don't think many people realise how easy it actually is. Some people who are a bit like, oh well, I don't look I look particularly scruffy or whatever, they might think this of themselves. They think that they're kind of stuck in that rut where they can't really get out of it. That they're kind of stuck with, sometimes they feel like they've been dealt a bit of a bad hand and they don't really know how to get out of it. But it's, like I say, it's very easy, and some of the routines are that simple that you wouldn't believe it. As simple as, something as simple as having a wash. Just having a wash every day will do wonders for your complexion, how you look, and having a shave are two very simple things, but of quite overlooked things, in that a lot of people don't put a lot of weight to, or just how important it is just having a wash or a shave or whatever. Or if you do have facial hair, to make sure that it's kept and groomed instead of just growing out and becoming quite bushy. Because again, when it comes to doing it, it's harder to do. So it's just, these are just, in this video I'm just trying to say little very simple, easy things that are attainable to most people, but to everyone. Now, everyone can do these things to look their best and bring out the best how they look. Again, some people think they have to do very drastic things, which you don't. It's very, some of the simplest things, some of the most affordable, cheapest things that you can do. And the last one I want to talk about is how your dress sense, how you dress, how you coordinate clothes, how you carry yourself. Now, be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked through your wardrobe or your items of clothing and actually thought, I'm going to wear something I haven't worn for a while, or something that I'm going to go and try something different? Or do you just tend to stick to the same thing? Which again, everyone has their own sense of style. That's great. But do you just throw on the first thing to hand? Or do you actually think, oh, this is going to look good. I'm going to try it out with these jeans or these trousers. And let's see how these shoes go with them. Do you try and coordinate your clothes so that they match, or they stand out, or they look good? Or do you just, I don't know, throw on whatever's closest to hand because it's there? I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer again, but what is it? Think to yourself. Do you just throw on what's there, or do you actually think about coordinating your clothes? Or have you thought to yourself, I'm going to try something different, a different dress sense. I'm going to try out something new. Or do you kind of play it safe and stick to the same thing? Again, there's, for certain occasions you dress a certain way. For certain, in certain environments you might dress differently to others. I myself like to try out new things every so often. Or I will find something that I like and I'll try and build on that. So I'll think, well, I like this. I like how I look in whatever that outfit is, and I'll try and find other things in that kind of vein, in that kind of area. So other clothes that kind of like it but a bit different. But it tends to change. How I dressed, for example, when, say, 5 or 6 years ago, is quite different to how I dress now. And that might be the same for you. Maybe your dress sense has changed in, say, 5 or 10 years. Or maybe it stayed the same. And again, there's no right or wrong answer, but if you want to try out different things, I'd say go for it. Always try out something new. I try to make sure I don't look the same every 5 or 6 years. I like to try out new things and look differently than I did, say, 5 or 6 years ago. But that's, again, it's all subjective, it's all personal preferences. But if you are watching these videos and you are interested in trying out new things, but again, I did a video not so long ago where I spoke about clothing in this era, and that I did kind of have an opinion, or I felt that the 2020s in some ways were probably the most boring era for men's fashion. But it's not so much the fashions itself, it's not that there aren't different fashions out there, it's just most people tend to stick with the same thing. And again, I don't want to offend anybody who dresses in certain dress codes, but at the same time, you should want to try out new things. But again, some people might be a bit scared to try out new things, and they might stay with one. No, they might pick something that works for them and never really move on from it. But again, these are just little things to think about, and that's what this video was meant to be about today. How do you coordinate your clothes? How do you dress? How do you make yourself look the most presentable you can? Or do you feel that you can't you're kind of stuck with how you look and you can't really make yourself look any better. And what I'm kind of trying to say is there are many things you can do. A lot of people don't realise what's in their control. They think quite a lot's outside of their control, but there's quite a lot within it. And you don't really have to do the most extreme things to get the best results. So sometimes from the most simplest things you can get the best results. So again, just little things to think about. Do you want to change your clothing? How you coordinate clothes? Maybe you want to look into better skincare routines, or, as I say, you can do some of the most simplest things, but make sure you maintain it. So that means having a wash every day, having a shave, things like that. Again, you're not being told to this, but it's things to think about if you are thinking about what you wanting to change your appearance or try out new things. And the last thing I'm going to say before I wrap this video up is some people can sometimes not change how they look or are a bit dubious about doing it because they're worried about what people might say. And that might sound a bit extreme, but you'd be surprised how many people would like to change how they look or try out new things, but they're worried about how people will perceive them. And that is a real thing, and that does happen. So what I'll say is that if you've ever felt that, just do what, if you want to do it, then go for it. Because you're going to get criticised whatever you do. I don't want to be too negative, but someone will always criticise you for something. So the best thing to do is, if you like it, then you go for it. That's all I want to say, and that's what this video was about. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, at the start of the video, go and check out the rest of the videos. I'm still waiting to hear back from the agency. It's been a few weeks now, but optimistic as always. If you want, leave a comment. If you want, subscribe or leave a like. But anyway, I'll try and make the next video. I'll try and upload it a bit more recently because I know it's nearly 2 weeks. So I'll try and do it within the next week or by the end of the week. Again, don't know what it's going to be about yet. I never do, but hopefully everybody's doing well, and I will see you in the next video. And just a few things to think about your appearance. Because as I said with the looks maxing video, looks matter, but they're not all that matter. So, peace.